The very air you breathe, once a source of comfort, now feels like a heavy, suffocating blanket. Your heart isn't just breaking, it's a raw, pulsating thing trying to claw its way out of your chest. This isn't just emotional pain, this is a full-body assault, a betrayal so profound it has etched itself onto your very DNA. You've felt it, haven't you? That gut-wrenching, soul-crushing moment when the people who should have been your bedrock, your sanctuary, instead became the architects of your deepest wound. Today, we're talking about chosen ones. The family that cast you out is now forced to watch God elevate you. It begins subtly, perhaps with a sudden chill that isn't from the weather, but from a truth too cold to bear. Then the stomach lurches, not from hunger, but from a profound emptiness that threatens to consume you whole. It's the moment the words hit, or the silence screams louder than any accusation. A strange, metallic taste floods your mouth, a premonition of the bitter draught you're about to drink. Your breath hitches, catching somewhere in your throat, refusing to descend into your lungs, leaving you gasping for an oxygen that feels stolen. Your vision blurs, not with tears immediately, but with a sudden, disorienting tunnel vision that shrinks the world down to the pinpoint of their unforgivable actions. Remember the tremor in your hands, subtle at first, then escalating into an uncontrollable shake. It's your body registering a seismic event, an internal earthquake triggered by the very hands that once offered comfort, now delivering the final, crushing blow. The mind races, trying to process, to rationalize, to find some loophole, some error in the judgment, but the heart knows. It knows the truth with an agonizing certainty. You are unwanted. You are cast out. Not by strangers, not by enemies, but by the very blood that courses through your veins. The faces into this, I need to be blunt. The algorithms on this platform routinely suppress the heaviest, most profound truths about spiritual warfare and timeline shifting. They prefer surface-level comfort, but we deal in deep psychological liberation. If you want the raw, unfiltered masterclasses, the daily somatic audio resets, and the content I am not allowed to post here, it is waiting for you inside the private sanctuary. For $12, you can step out of the noise and into the deep end. The link is in the description. The faces that once beamed with an illusion of love now harden into masks of indifference, contempt, or worse, a chilling, calculated malice. Every fiber of your being screams in protest, yet no sound escapes, trapped by the sheer weight of their abandonment. It's a wound that doesn't bleed outwardly, but internally, festering, sending tendrils of pain throughout your entire system. The muscles tighten, clenching against an unseen blow. Your shoulders hunch, instinctively trying to protect a heart that has already been exposed and lacerated. Sleep becomes a battleground, haunted by replays of their dismissive glances, their cutting words, their deliberate exclusions. Your appetite vanishes, replaced by a nausea that churns relentlessly, a constant reminder that something vital has been ripped from you. It's the feeling of standing naked and exposed in a freezing gale, while those who should have sheltered you watch from a warm, illuminated window, their backs turned. This isn't hyperbole. It's the raw, unvarnished truth of somatic betrayal. Your body keeps the score, registering every slight, every dismissal, every act of familial rejection as a physical assault. The initial shock gives way to a dull ache that permeates every bone, every joint, a constant thrumming reminder of the chasm they created. You look in the mirror and see a stranger, a shadow of the person you once were, before their cold judgment stripped away your sense of belonging, your inherent worth. The betrayal isn't just an event, it's an infiltration, a toxic substance injected directly into your spirit, leaving you breathless, disoriented, and profoundly alone in a world that suddenly seems to have lost its axis. But this profound rupture, this brutal expulsion, is precisely where your divine elevation begins. You stand now not just on solid ground, but on the shifting sands where a mirage once shimmered. For years, perhaps your entire life, you walked towards an oasis you were told existed. You were promised refreshment, belonging, unconditional love from the very people who brought you into this world, or those who were meant to shield you within its embrace. But then, the wind shifted. The light changed. and the beautiful, life-sustaining image of family you cherished so fiercely dissolved into nothing but heat, haze, and dust. This isn't just disappointment, it's a wound far deeper than betrayal. This is the searing agony of realizing that what you grieved, what you fought for, what you desperately tried to salvage, was never truly there to begin with. You mourn not a loss, but an absence disguised as a presence. The chair at the metaphorical family table, the one you always hoped would be filled with genuine warmth, understanding, and acceptance, stands starkly empty. Not empty because someone passed away, but empty because the occupant you envisioned never truly existed in that role for you. They were physically present, yes, but emotionally, spiritually, they were phantom limbs, leaving you to carry their weight without their support. This is the grief of the empty chair. It's the profound, disorienting sorrow for a love you believed in, a bond you sacrificed for, a safety net you stretched yourself thin to maintain, only to discover it was merely a projection of your own longing. It's a mourning process for a relationship that was a meticulously constructed illusion, designed to keep you tethered, compliant, and forever striving for an approval that was never genuinely on offer. The grit of this truth is sharp, cutting deep, because it forces you to reevaluate every memory, every sacrifice, every instance where you blamed yourself for the disconnect. You begin to replay the tapes, not with self-recrimination, but with a horrifying clarity. The subtle digs dressed as jokes, the conditional love that shifted like the wind, the way your successes were met with envy and your struggles with indifference or even satisfaction. The gaslighting, the manipulations, the constant moving of the goalposts, it all crystallizes into a stark, undeniable pattern. This wasn't a family dynamic, it was a carefully curated performance, with you cast as the perpetual seeker, forever chasing validation that was deliberately withheld to control you. The pain of this revelation is multifaceted. There's the crushing weight of wasted years, expended energy, and emotional capital poured into a bottomless pit. There's the confusion of having your fundamental understanding of love and loyalty twisted. And then there's the heartbreaking realization that the very people who were meant to champion you were, in fact, your silent saboteurs, or at best, indifferent strangers wearing the masks of family. This isn't a simple breakup. It's the shattering of your foundational worldview, a deep rupture in the very fabric of your personal history. To grieve a mirage is to sit with an unsettling silence. There are no shared memories of genuine warmth to soften the blow, only a stark collection of instances where you felt unseen, unheard, or actively undermined. There's no comforting narrative of they did their best, when their best was a calculated withholding. This particular grief carries a unique isolation, for how do you explain to others that you are mourning something that never truly existed? How do you articulate the devastating emptiness of realizing the love you felt was unrequited, not in a romantic sense, but in the deepest, most primal sense of familial connection? Yet this brutal truth, as agonizing as it is also your liberation. By allowing yourself to feel the full, unadulterated weight of this grief, the anger, the sorrow, the profound sense of loss for what should have been, you begin to dismantle the illusion yourself. If you are feeling the physical weight of this spiritual warfare right now, you need armor. I want you to look at the screen. This is the Spiritual Warfare Handbook. It is a complete 30-day system I designed specifically to help you reclaim your spiritual authority and stop absorbing the chaos around you. You do not have to fight this battle unprotected. I have put the link directly in the description for you to grab your copy right now. The empty chair, once a symbol of your unending hope, now stands as a monument to your awakening. It signifies the end of the futile chase, the cessation of striving for a love that was never truly there. In its emptiness, it finally offers you a clear space, not for them, but for you to build something real. This mourning is not a weakness. It is the gritty, necessary work of reclaiming your reality, your truth, and your inherent worth. It's the first step towards filling that space with authentic connection, a space that was previously occupied by a ghost. Many of you, especially those raised in certain traditions, have been taught that forgiveness is immediate, unconditional, and always the pathway to peace. But let me tell you a dangerous truth. Sometimes, the very act of forgiveness can become another chain binding you to your pain. Premature forgiveness, forced or rushed, isn't freedom. It's a wound poorly sutured, festering beneath the surface. It's an act of spiritual self-sacrifice that serves no one, least of all you. When you offer absolution before genuine accountability has been established, before the dust of their damage has settled and been acknowledged, you are effectively telling your abusers that their actions carry no real consequence. You are signaling that their behavior is permissible or, at the very least, easily overlooked. Forgiveness without accountability is merely a permission slip for future harm. This isn't healing, it's enablement, a quiet agreement to endure further disrespect. It invalidates your suffering and denies the depth of the wrong done to you, leaving you adrift in unacknowledged pain. World and even well-meaning spiritual advisors will often push you towards a quick forgiveness, promising instant liberation. But liberation without security is simply vulnerability. Before you can even consider the sacred act of forgiveness, you must first erect your boundaries. These aren't walls built of anger, but necessary fences of self-respect. They are the clear, non-negotiable lines that communicate your worth and demand protection for your spirit, your mind, and your future. They are the visible testament to the fact that you will no longer tolerate what broke you. Boundaries teach others how to treat you. They say, "No more. My peace is not for negotiation. My spirit is not for sacrifice on the altar of your comfort." They create the safe space within which you can begin to heal, to process the grief and trauma without further intrusion or the lingering threat of repeat offenses. True forgiveness, when it is authentic and liberating, flows from a place of strength, not desperation. It's the final act of releasing yourself, not merely absolving them. And that release cannot happen when you are still bleeding out, vulnerable to the very hands that wounded you. Furthermore, premature forgiveness often robs the perpetrator of the opportunity for genuine introspection and repentance. If there are no consequences, no real impact felt from their destructive actions, why would they change? Your swift absolution can inadvertently become their shield against self-awareness. It allows them to bypass the hard work of acknowledging their wrongdoing, making amends, and transforming their own character. True reconciliation, if it is ever to occur, requires a willingness on their part to see their impact, to humble themselves, and to respect the boundaries you have courageously set. Without those boundaries, there is no fertile ground for a new, healthier relationship to potentially grow. I know this path feels counterintuitive to what you've been taught. You might feel guilty, afraid that delaying forgiveness makes you bitter or unchristian. But understand this, your Creator, the God who sees every tear, every betrayal, is also a God of justice and protection. He understands the necessity of safeguarding your spirit. He doesn't demand you expose yourself to further harm in the name of piety. He asks you to be wise, to be discerning, and to prioritize your sacred well-being. Your healing is not a moral failing if it takes time. The journey to forgiveness is not a sprint. It's a marathon often run alone on terrain scarred by betrayal. It begins not with an open embrace, but with a firm stance. It begins with the courageous act of setting and enforcing boundaries. Only then, from a place of secure self-worth and established safety, can you truly consider what absolution means for your healing and whether it's a journey you're ready to embark on. Until then, protect your peace, guard your heart, and know that standing firm is not unforgiveness. It is self-preservation, a divine mandate for the chosen ones. You see a magnificent skyscraper, a testament to modern engineering piercing the clouds. But before it stood in its gleaming finality, it was encased, a skeletal framework shrouded in a labyrinth of pipes and planks, netting and steel beams. That, my friends, was the scaffolding. It was there necessary, supporting, holding the structure in its infancy, allowing the true builders to ascend, to weld, to pour, to perfect. It was instrumental, vital even for a time. But here's the absolute truth about scaffolding. It is never the foundation. It is never the finished product. And it is always, always removed. Now look at your own journey. Look at the structures of your past, the towering heights you've already scaled, and the even greater elevations God is calling you to. In the early stages of building who you are, especially within the confines of family, there were people who served as your scaffolding. They were present, sometimes seemingly supportive, sometimes providing a necessary framework, however rickety, for you to begin your ascent. Perhaps they offered a semblance of stability, even if it came with conditional clauses or sharp edges that cut as often as they held. Maybe they were the only visible support you had in a particular season, preventing an immediate collapse, but never designed to bear the full weight of your glorious destiny. They might have been the very hand that held you up, only to be the same hand that tried to trip you as you found your footing. This is the hard, gritty reality. Many of us have confused our scaffolding for our foundation. We believed the temporary supports were meant to be permanent fixtures, integral to our very being. We convinced ourselves that without their specific brand of conditional love, manipulative guidance, or critical feedback, we couldn't possibly stand. We allowed their temporary presence to define our potential, to cast shadows over our burgeoning brilliance. We clung to the familiar, even when the familiar was a cage made of the same material that once offered support. But God, in His infinite wisdom and relentless pursuit of your elevation, knows the difference. He knows when the scaffolding has served its purpose. More than that, He knows when it has stopped being a support and started becoming a hindrance, an obstruction. He sees when those temporary structures are no longer enabling your growth, but actively obscuring your true form, preventing the light from reaching the masterpiece you are becoming. He sees when the support begins to rot, to weaken, to threaten the integrity of the very building it was meant to aid. And this is where the gritty work of divine elevation truly begins. God orchestrates the removal. Sometimes it's a gentle nudge, a quiet discernment that whispers, "It's time." More often, it's a seismic shift, a painful jolt that rips away what you thought was essential, revealing the shocking truth that the structure can not only stand without it, but will thrive beyond it. The family members who believed they were your anchor, your unshakable ground, are suddenly revealed as just temporary planks meant to be discarded once the true edifice took form. They believed they built you, but they merely surrounded you during construction. The dismantling of this scaffolding can feel brutal. It can feel like abandonment, like losing a part of yourself, even when that part was actively harming you. The pain is real, the grief is valid, because even bad support was still present. But imagine a skyscraper that refused to let its scaffolding be removed. It would forever be hidden, incomplete, unable to stand in its full, majestic glory. It would be condemned to a perpetual state of construction, never revealing the polished glass, the strong steel, the breathtaking view from the top. That's what happens when you refuse to let go of the scaffolding of toxic relationships, especially within the family you emerged from. You remain obscured, your true strength unseen, your highest calling unreached. God pulls back the netting, unbolts the beams, and dismantles the false supports, not to leave you exposed and vulnerable, but to finally reveal the unshakable, divinely constructed individual you always were. He does this so that when the world gazes upon you, they don't see the temporary, the flawed, the provisional. They see you strong, resplendent, utterly complete, standing tall, built upon the only true foundation, Him. Those who were merely scaffolding are left below, watching in bewilderment, unable to comprehend the finished, elevated marvel that stands where they once stood, temporary and ultimately dispensable. This is not abandonment, this is liberation. This is your revelation. We've talked about the pain, the rejection, the undeniable truth that God is moving you from the dust to the palace. But let's anchor this in a story that resonates deep in the core of our faith, a testament to God's unwavering hand, even when others are throwing stones. Think of King David. When his own son, Absalom, rebelled against him, usurping his throne and forcing him to flee Jerusalem, David experienced a familial betrayal that few of us can truly comprehend. As he was ascending the Mount of Olives, barefoot and weeping, a man named Shimei emerged. A kinsman of Saul, the king David had replaced, Shimei saw this moment of David's vulnerability as his chance for revenge. Shimei didn't just curse David. He hurled stones at him and at all his servants, shouting, get out, you man of blood, you worthless fellow. The Lord has avenged on you all the blood of the house of Saul, in whose place you have reigned, and the Lord has given the kingdom into the hand of your son Absalom. See, your evil is on you, for you are a man of blood. Imagine that. In your darkest hour, stripped of your power, grieving the betrayal of your own child. Someone actively marks your pain, revels in your downfall, and declares God is punishing you. David's mighty warrior Abishai wanted to go and cut off Shimei's head right then and there. But David's response is profound, and it holds a critical lesson for every chosen one. Let him alone, and let him curse, for the Lord has told him to curse David. Perhaps the Lord will look on my affliction and repay me with good for his cursing this day. David understood something vital. Sometimes, God permits the curses, the stones, the public humiliation, not because he's against you, but because he's at work through it. He trusted that God was allowing this trial, and in his sovereignty would use it for a greater good. He refused to give his energy to a petty man's vengeance, choosing instead to lean into divine justice. Years later, after David was restored to his throne, Shimei came begging for mercy. David, in the magnanimity of his elevated position, swore to him, "You shall not die." But even then, David did not forget the deep injustice. He instructed Solomon, "You are a wise man, you will know what you ought to do with him." Eventually, under Solomon's reign, Shimei broke a simple command to stay within Jerusalem and sealed his own fate. This wasn't David's human revenge. It was the unfolding of a divine reckoning, a slow but certain justice for actions taken against God's anointed. Now think about your own journey. When your family, or those you once considered family, cast you out, there's often a terrible silence that follows. A silence that screams louder than any shout. It's the silence of dismissal, the silence of judgment, the silence of those who choose to believe the narrative that casts you as the villain. This silence isn't neutral, it's a trap. It's designed to make you doubt, to make you question if you imagine the wrongs, if you're truly the problem. If God has abandoned you, it's a trap that makes you want to break it, to justify yourself, to demand an explanation, to force an apology. But for the chosen one, your silence, when rooted in God's trust, is your power. It's not weakness, it's the quiet strength of someone who knows God is their vindicator. You don't need to fill the void with your explanations or your pleas. Let their silence be their witness. Let their inability to acknowledge your pain or your truth be the very thing that exposes their heart. Their silence, when God begins to elevate you, becomes their prison. They are forced to watch. They are forced to see the undeniable hand of God moving in your life, blessing you, opening doors, placing you where you belong. And they are silent. They can't celebrate, they can't apologize, they can't even deny it, because the evidence of God's favor is too overwhelming. Their silence becomes a stark, deafening monument to their error, their jealousy, their misjudgment. It's a silence that confirms everything you already knew, but now the whole world can see it too. And in that, you find a peace that transcends any human vindication, because it's a peace that comes from the ultimate judge. You have survived the hardest parts of this journey, but survival is not the final destination. It is time to step into your true timeline. I invite you to click the link in the description and step inside our private sanctuary. For $12 a month, you unlock the entire uncensored masterclass library and the daily somatic audio resets to keep your nervous system grounded. And while you are there, you can also pick up the complete spiritual warfare handbook to build your daily armor. Look at the screen right now. This is the quiet, ad-free space waiting for you. If you are ready to finally come home to a space that understands you, click the link below. I will see you inside.